Well, it is 2 p.m. It is Sunday, and it is the Sunday service, so welcome to it. This is a different Sunday service than you would normally have. It's normally just me reading out all of your comments. But today, I am joined by Marek from Marek Drives, who I hope will be able to be seen perfectly on the screen if this all works out nicely, because we've never done this before, and it looks like the computer's already starting to overheat. But we'll see. If we can get through this entire thing, it'll be brilliant. So everybody who has just joined, I'm just going to let you all settle down. We're already coming up to 100 people joining, and a lot of Polish chat, so Marek's going to have to translate some of that for us. But anyway, we're going to welcome to the channel. So this is Marek from Marek Drive. Thank you very much for joining us, Marek. You're on screen.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for having me on. It's the first time I attended a site since probably when I was a wee lad, like 8 years old or something, when me and my cousin, we had this prayer book and we did a Sunday service in actually this very room.
Wow.
My parents got mad.
Yeah, well, I don't do Sunday services at all. Normally, the amount of people who used to come here and tell me that it was it's all about mass and stuff, and they go, no, I don't really do mass. We do mass for cars, if that's any use to you. We have hundreds of comments already. There's a few of your audience out to join us. I can see there already. Eric Rochford is here now. I'm getting a lot of I'm sorry if it's not as smooth as it should be normally, but we're trying our best to try and make this. Marek is in Poland, I'm in Ireland. We're streaming into the US, so we're doing pretty good. The technology works so far.
Indeed. So far I saw a hi, hello, and if there's anything else in Polish, I will find it sooner or later. I'm just scrolling quickly through the comments.
Unfortunately, today we lost Stirling Moss, which came out this morning. A man who's at 90 years old who had a massive career in motor racing, and over all of his career has been one of the biggest motor racing people from the UK. Now, I do have a few slides to show up on the screen that you can have a look at now, which are some of the ones you sent me this morning, Marek, which is Stirling Moss driving. I know there's a bit of a lag behind what you can see and what I can see, but it's popping up on the screen there now for the most of the users, so they'll be able to see it. Did you ever meet Stirling Moss or any of those kind of people? Have you ever been to Goodwood Festival of Speed?
No, I never had the opportunity, really. I just know him from his achievements, from the Mille Miglia, basically. I mean, that's the biggest thing, the famous SLR he's sitting in right now. And beautiful cars. This is what I know him from, especially. I don't have all the sort of pop culture references that people living in the UK and Ireland would probably have, because as far as I know, he did appear quite a bit on TV, didn't he?
Yeah, it's true. He was on television quite a lot, yeah, and he was one of those proponents. He was brought up quite a bit at every sort of...
All of a sudden, everything is muted. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly, yeah. Although I am getting a little bit of a lag behind on my stream now as well. I'm getting a lot of dropped frames, but I can't really help that, because what YouTube is doing, or what everything's trying to do in one shot, is download all of the Skype stuff and then upload all of the Skype stuff back on.
Okay, I think we crashed.
Yep. I think so too. We're streaming back up again. I'm going to go check on something. It's still streaming, but I'm going to go check on something. Back in a sec.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't figure out what that is. Now we're just getting the connection's kind of laggy today for some reason.
Robert Doyle says we're back on.
Yay, that's good. Okay, well,
also,
YouTube's still complaining that we
all of a sudden I got bigger. I'm sort of bigger on the screen than you are.
Okay. It'll pop back down again in a second. I don't know why that actually hopped up and down there. I'm going to lock all that down.
Excellent.
So you can't move anymore. Yeah, that's it. Video capture. Have to run back down and check my my Wi-Fi connection. I am running a full cable up to this room eventually, but it hasn't come in the post. Everything in Amazon is like sold out. Every time you want to buy anything, it's sold out.
Yes, I'm still waiting on a couple of things. I mean, small things like, for example, HDMI extender clips or something, they came in like next day. But when I try to order a what do you call it, a grabber, HDMI grabber for the main camera, they don't know when they're going to deliver. So I'm on a waiting list here in Poland.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, this is very laggy. Unfortunately, I can see it lagging up on screen. But we'll keep trying. We'll just let it settle again. I suppose it'll fall down. I'm not receiving enough video to maintain good stream. Yeah, it worked the other day when we tried it perfectly. No problem to it. That was studio mode for a minute.
We'll get there.
I'm going to. I tell you what, I'm going to stop stream. We get over this technical thing. It'll catch up. Right, we seem to be back on again, I think. I hope. Let's hope it all goes well this time. Now, I've reset everything just to see if it actually helps the stream. The biggest problem for all the lag, unfortunately, is that it is... I'm downloading Marek's stream of Skype, and it's been rebroadcast through my Wi-Fi back out again, and it's just not... It seems to be working okay, then seems to die off after a few minutes. But anyway, we're back on. Just let me know in chat, is it any nicer? Is it any cleaner? It says good connection on my end now, so it seems to be okay. No, still not able to do it.
It does seem to buffer a bit on my end as well, but I've got it down to like 144 so as not to overload that connection on my side.
I'll try my encoder set and see if I can just slow it down. Video. Still have a lower bit rate, unfortunately, on. Sorry, everybody's watching us doing our technical stuff now. Try a lower bit rate.
So I hope we're not going to overload the internet in Ireland.
Yeah, that's what happens. See, the two of us come on at the same time, we just absolutely murder the internet, completely break the internet one at a time. Encoder. Let's go and change the encoder set and see if it slows it down.
I'm looking for some settings on my end, whether I can reduce the quality of the video, but I don't think I can. So
no,
it's as bad as it's going to get on my end.
Yeah, it's just pretty much the same on my end now, but it does keep saying it's carrying on. Anyway, just carry on. Sound. The sound is okay according to Hitster. Audio 1K, okay. Video full of lag. So the video is just lagging behind, but the audio is there. So we'll plug on, because there's not much more I can do with the stream at this stage other than just pull everything out and start again from scratch.
Yes, exactly. I mean, people are listening to us for our witty comments, not for the
True. Nobody wants to watch us.
Way we look.
Nobody likes looking at us. That's not true. Oh, by the way, there's a massive sign behind me that says Bob Flavin.
Yes, I can see it says Bob.
Yeah, all you can see is Bob because I have it covered over that way. But there it is. I've just moved out of the way now, so you can see it now. It says Marek drives on it. See?
Not yet, because there's a bit of a lag, but as soon as your hair gets out of the way, I'll see it.
Yeah, no, my hair interferes with a lot of things. That's the way my hair always. Actually, I cut my own hair the other day, which is really. I need to cut it again now. It's just getting longer on the top. Have a look through the comments, see if I can find anything interesting other than it's laggy, terrible connection. Maybe say another mask. Good God, done deal is a head melt lately. All the window lickers online, nothing else to do, says Johnny Dub. YouTube wants us to log out and watching their advertisements again like the start of the session. That doesn't surprise me. Sound is fine. Video stream is quite bad. Audio is perfect.
Oh, now I can see the banner. Very nice.
There you are, you see, that was made for you. Now your name is in lights, kind of. Well, your name is on a poster. Anyone using Wi-Fi in the house? Any Netflix Wi-Fi connections to phones? Audio okay, video okay, full of lags. just carry on with the sound. So everyone seems to be okay with the sound of it. Check your PC bar for updates. Hitting it. Also check your antivirus software. Might be scanning. I don't have any antivirus software. I don't believe in it. I think antivirus is made by the virus companies. That's basically what happens there. Can you still see the chat, Marek? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
It seems to have frozen up again now. Consider turning down video settings. And yet my CPU is not overloaded. I'm not getting any drop frames on this end. Just seems to be the internet in general. I think it's just today. It's just the way the internet's behaving today. It's going to be one of those days where the internet does not like what you say or do.
You know what the IT specialists say? It works on my end, so it works at at your end, so
this is true.
Everything is fine. And it's everybody else's problem. Have you tried it turning it off and on again?
I was going to go downstairs to turn off the entire Wi-Fi system and re-plug it in and start again, but I don't know if that's going to help because it'll be off for so long. By the time it comes back on, everybody will be gone home. And we have 139 people watching according to that. I get messages from myself reminding myself to be here, which is pretty good as well. Let me ask you a question. What was your first press car?
It was I'm not sure whether it was first or second because my memory is a bit blurry, but it was either a Renault Clio RS, the 2-liter one, which was a pretty good place to start, or it was a Seat Altea, which is a less good place to start. But yeah, one of those two. I'm not sure where you started as a motoring journalist because enough to be backed up by an institution, i.e. the radio I was working for. So as a guy from the radio, I could just, I realized I could call them up and say, I'd fancy this and this car. And here, come along, here's your car, etc. So when I started doing it a bit more regularly, this is when it started to be somewhat more challenging, i.e. I had to, sort of have a proper schedule, and then I would say, this time doesn't fit my schedule, can we do it sooner or later, whatever. But I was lucky enough to work at the radio and do cars for 6 or something years, and then I started the YouTube channel kind of by accident. And when I ended my stint at the radio, I already had a fairly large YouTube channel, and YouTube was fairly new, so it went along like that.
Well, that's similar to what I had, although I didn't have any way of starting out, so I just started on my own with second-hand cars and talked to local dealerships to get a loan of cars, and that's how I started reviewing cars. But then it's such a small pool of people here in this country that it doesn't take very long for them to cop on that you're reviewing cars on YouTube, and I was the only one doing it on YouTube at the time from Ireland. And so very quickly I started getting press cars. I think the first press car I had was a Renault. It may have been a Seat or a Renault. I'm not sure which one. It was a Renault something or other, I think.
Right, we must have started around the same time.
I'd say it was, yeah. It was probably 2010, 2011. Late 2010, I think I started getting press cars. Or maybe it was early 2011 I started getting press cars. Up to there was used cars. And it was just in text. I didn't do videos at the time. And then I started with the video stuff.
So the Renault, what was it?
I think it was a Renault Grand Scenic. It may have been a Renault. No, it wasn't a Renault Clio. I think Clio was later on. I think it was a Renault Grand Scenic. But the first YouTube thing I actually did was the launch of the Nissan Leaf here in Ireland. They had a public launch where the general public could come along to it. And I went along and I made a video and I put the video up online. I wasn't in it. I'm not in it. I don't talk in it or anything. And it was copyright strike because there's a U2 song playing in the background at the launch. So I ended up with a copyright thing. But that was the first video I made online.
So I found you. I discovered you thanks to the GT86 review, which I think was a dealer car still,
It was too, yeah.
and you were linked by autoblog.com, I think, and it was hilarious. I mean, you were having a ball in that car.
Yeah, that one went because it was very early. It was before the press car of that car came out. So my local dealer here, I'm a friend of him for a long time. He said, do you want to come along and have a spin in the car? I have one here. And that's exactly what happened. It was just this moment of let's just go drive a car and stick a camera in and see what happens. And that's one of those ones that went viral. I think the other one that kind of went sort of in its own little way viral was an Audi S6 video that I made on the launch of a different car. They were launching something down in Ireland, an Audi, and they brought an S6, and I drove that the next morning, which is not to do with it. Lots of different names in today. I see today Robert Doyle, I know who you are. Simon Thompson, New One Talks Cars, yeah. Bob loves a Skoda Superb, says Mini Eggs. Marek is indifferent about them. Discuss. You don't like a Skoda Superb. Do you not like Skoda Superb?
I'm not as much of a Skoda fan as you are, apparently.
Right. Yeah.
It's okay. So there's a thing with Skodas in Poland, and Skodas in Poland are your kind of repmobile. Right. Again, many people aspire to Skoda because, if you get an Octavia or a Superb, then obviously you are very well off. You're high in your sort of mid-management of this and that. And obviously you're doing pretty well for yourself. But it's also a car, especially the smaller ones, which are used and abused by kind of lower sales rep merchandisers who drive like crazy. You can spot them by a very long CB radio antenna on the roof, and they just, they have like, I don't know, 100 locations to visit every day, and they will drive like not very nice people.
Yeah, we have the same sort of thing over here, although that's kind of geared a little bit more towards Volkswagen and Ford than it is Skoda. Skoda here tends to be a sort of family farmer car, or a family runabout sort of car. The Octavia does well definitely in the family end of stuff. The Superb, a little bit more in the kind of middle executive person, but not half as much. Say Passat or the Mondeo would be much higher in that respect. It's weird how countries in the same region have a completely different audience for different brands of car, isn't it?
I mean, Poland is a very strange market when it comes to Skoda, because Skoda, if you look across Europe, it's a brand that's somewhere there. And in Poland, Skoda is or was, because they're always fighting, the best-selling car. It's either Skoda or Toyota. So both of these brands are, your kind of average to low volume manufacturers in Europe, but Skoda and Toyota are very good in Poland. And Toyota, I get it why, because back in the communist era, Toyota was available. If you had dollars, you could buy a Toyota, and you could buy it from a special okay, let's not get into it. You could buy it in a special store, let's say, if you had dollars, and you could buy a Toyota, and it was the dream car because, you had a Japanese car and it's going to be reliable. And there is a 85 Toyota diesel parked next to my grandfather's flat, and I met the old army colonel who owns it, and I'm trying to convince him to sell it to me one day. It's in wonderful shape. He keeps it under a duvet almost. What do you call it? The covers, basically. Car covers, yeah. Because it's parked outside. It's a block of flats, but it's in brilliant condition, and he still drives it. Doesn't need much maintenance, and it just goes. So that's the Toyota popularity. As far as Skoda is concerned, I have no idea whether it's whether we like Czechs or something, because Skoda was always a crappy car by Polish standards, and when Volkswagen took over, obviously it became better, but it's very expensive. It costs pretty much the same as a Volkswagen, but then, it's always bigger.
Yeah, we have the same thing. It is about the same price as a Volkswagen here, but they position themselves slightly differently into the Irish market. They even use it in their advertising here, where it says Skoda, a car made for Ireland, or they kind of position it that way. That's meant to be an Irish car. I'd be a fan of it because of the value for money versus the kit and equipment you can get in a Skoda versus a Volkswagen. But you're getting the Volkswagen parts. So you're getting the diesel engines, you're getting all the petrol engines, you're getting, it's the same stuff, but you get more of it for around the same money as a Volkswagen here. But Volkswagen, I have a Passat currently estate, and it's just gorgeous, and there's something about it really works well.
Well, that's the thing. I never had that experience because to me, when I compare it side by side, whether it's a Superb and a Passat or Octavia and a Golf, okay, Skodas are always going to be bigger. So if you want the most space for your buck, then obviously you go with a Skoda.
Yeah.
Although the what is it now? The Scala, it's actually the boot is so small in a Scala. I don't know why. Anyway. But if you want the latest tech, you go with Volkswagen, and I'm a gadget man.
Yeah. And what do you think? I see a question here from Hitstar. Whatever you do, don't mention an Ioniq to Bob. I think I once did and got away with it. My last video for the Hyundai Ioniq, the newest one.
I've seen that. Seen that.
Did you not like it? Do you like it?
I thought for what it was okay. Let's put the price aside for a minute.
Yeah.
As far as electric cars go, it was decent. I didn't feel it was as cheaply made as you put it. I thought it was pretty good. And I liked the pre-facelift Ioniq, and I like the post-facelift Ioniq. I like the electric. I like the hybrid. It's fine. However, when you sort of add the price to it and you realize, I think in Poland you would have to drive for like 9 years, 100 kilometers a day for it to break even, then you realize it's really not making much sense in any way you look at it. I mean, even if it's only 5 years,
yeah,
that's still 700 kilometers a week to break even if you have some sort of government subsidies or something.
Yeah, it's the same here as well. It takes such a long time. I get the environmental impact of electric cars, generally speaking, or the clean air technology around them, but it just takes such a long time to make money back out of it, to even come close to breaking even for a car. You might even end up owning it and selling it and getting rid of it and buying another one, and you still haven't broken even on the first one you had. So it consistently bothers me about the price of electric cars.
The price of the electric car, yeah, it always bothers me as well. It's something on the one hand, I would love to have an electric car. On the other hand, I know that for the work I do, I need a very quick station wagon or a very quick SUV, or maybe even a Volkswagen whatever transporter with a bed inside, or at least a heater, because in the winter it's terrible when you're freezing and you would like to go in somewhere and have a cup of tea and go back and shoot. There is a question from Eric Rockford, if you don't mind me interrupting here, Bob, because he would like to know, is it difficult to shoot and edit both in Polish and English? And okay, so the short answer is, if I did it sort of straight out of my head, then it would be terrible. This is why I didn't like doing car launch event videos for a long time, because I always thought there is not enough time to actually script it. I script my reviews, and I thought doing a car launch event might be a bit difficult. However, these days, if I go to a car launch event, I have a script 80-90% ready, and I will supplement it while I'm there, just type what I'm missing about the driving experience, because all the technical data and everything like that is already known, and that's how I do it. I was just editing a 10-minute video for next week, and to edit it from Polish to English, where I just substitute these kind of little blocks, it took me about half an hour.
You're lucky.
Of course, it does take a bit of preparation because, I have to record everything in both languages. I have to write everything in both languages, or write it in Polish and then translate it more or less. There are some slight variations because not everything is relevant to my Polish and to my international audience. And, sometimes, a joke sounds good in English or in Polish, so I have to supplement something here and there. But so there is a bit more preparation, but once I'm recording it, it just goes.
Yeah, my problem is I can't. If I script something, which I can do, I mean, I can write scripts if I like, but when I script it, it doesn't come out. It sounds like I'm reading it. I find it very hard to deviate, even in the slightest, from a script. And then, of course, editing is much easier if it's scripted. Obviously, editing is a bit faster. But when I record, I just record the whole thing in one go, and then just cut out the bits where I'm burping or coughing or the stuff in the middle of.
If I did one language version only, I would probably be less thorough. Having a script also makes it easy for me to relate to some of the spiteful comments that everybody gets on the internet, and you just search for a keyword, and I can say, I've never mentioned Volkswagen in this video or something, or I said this and that, and I can quote directly. So that makes it a lot easier because I really know what I said.
Yeah, I suppose, because if I'm not careful when I'm editing, because the way you just kind of do, like I do a choppy edit, so I do one big long edit, it might be 20 minutes, and then I'll cut out the bits I don't like, bring it down to like 15 or 10, and then do some behind the scenes stuff. But sometimes things get left in, like one of my more popular videos where I'm testing a BMW 3 Series, and I do burp in the middle of a sentence, and I didn't cut it out, and it's still in the video. I never cut it out. I left it there because the video was so popular.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't in intentionally. I just forgot to cut that bit out. Footy Ferrari asked an interesting question. Cars that are discontinued that you wish could be revived. None really that I can do, because they revived the Puma and it's not the Puma. They revive cars all the time. The name of the car comes back, but often the car has nothing to do with its original one.
Yeah. Okay, I wouldn't mind them doing maybe Honda Prelude again.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Not the one that appeared in the picture in Smith and Sniff video recently, but the sort of like I think 2 generations earlier, the one with pop-up headlights.
Yeah.
That was a nice one.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. There's a few cars that... I think a lot of the problem is a lot of the people who work for car companies now, designing cars or doing the marketing, are very young. And a lot of them aren't actually car people. They don't come from a car industry. What they've done is they've dropped in from a marketing background. And so they're trying to learn the cars. So it's only the modern stuff that they actually know. So when we start talking about older cars, they don't know what we're talking about for the most part.
That's true, and some of them, they are also very focused on the project they're doing. Recently, I was at a launch event of the Smart, I think, and sitting next to me was their designer of this and that. And okay, he did show me a couple of very interesting details on the electric Smart. Believe it or not, it does have several interesting details somewhere around the grille, for example. So, if you want to geek out about that, we can do a tour one day, preferably not. But getting anything out of him, anything beyond what he was sort of allowed to say, he held his liquor well and didn't divulge any secret information. The Germans, he was Belgian, I think. The Germans are much better in this respect because, especially the higher up, the more willing they are to talk. But that usually means they have to be older and they can make the decision of what they can say and what's going to be repeated and in what context.
Simon Thompson says, ask Bob, does he like a Toyota Carina? And yes, I do. I used to own a Toyota Carina. I've actually got a Haynes manual back there from a Toyota Carina E. So yeah, 97. It's a good, boring as all hell, but it was a great car.
Toyota Carina was a Toyota Corona rebranded for Europe, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah. Carina 2. Corona it was when it came out first, and Carina came out here.
Not the best name these days, but...
No. Then it came out, it turned into Avenzis after a while, a Candy Avenzis as well, so that's gone. But very boring, but very reliable cars. There was actually a fast Carina once upon a time, which is actually quite a fun yacht to drive. Great to see you both streaming together. I've been following both of you for ages from Cormaca. Get your questions in early because I won't be able to read all of the questions there with two of us talking about stuff, so there won't be time for all of the questions to be answered, but good ones, we will pick them out along the way. Both to trek across Iceland in a Fiat Panda Cross, camping and cooking along the way. There's a suggestion for the two of us to do. So we'll have to go to Iceland. Where would we go to? Just go to northern Poland. It's just as cold.
It's not. That's the problem. I did my, what was it, Kia e-Soul test drive to the north of Poland recently, and it was like November, so there should be snow. It should be minus temperature or anything or something like that, and it wasn't. It was plus 2 or 3. I didn't get what I was looking for. I didn't get the sub-zero temperatures to fully test the battery.
Yeah, we have very stable.
So
weather
yeah,
here.
we might have to go to Iceland. Also, Iceland, I think, is more dramatic when it comes to scenery. So the two of us in the middle of Iceland.
Okay, we need a Panda
in a Fiat
4x4.
500.
We need we need a camera crew, and we go up to Iceland for a while. A bit of a laugh.
I did Fiat 500 from Warsaw to Salzburg and back, and I did film on something called the Rottfeld Panorama Strasse, which is like between Austria and Germany. Very scenic route, and I think that was back in the time when it was still allowed to fly drones in Germany.
Yeah.
Not in Austria, but in Germany. So, I had to make sure I was on the German side, and I flew the drone to get the shots I needed. Also, I almost lost the drone. That was the DJI Phantom 2, which had very sketchy connection.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the picture's gone. The drone, I have no idea where it was. And I just started playing with the control sticks, and finally I saw it rising above the horizon, because what I was like on top of the mountain, and it was I was going down, following the car, driving down this twisty road, and when the drone was somewhere obscured by the trees, I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I had a lovely French
Kids
woman
don't
give
do
an
that at home.
absolute stink to me one day about I was flying a drone. I think it was the Ford Focus launch. And it's one of those places, like you were saying, where it has big cliff edges. Those kind of dramatic drives they do, big mountains, big cliff edge. And I had a lovely clear view out of where I could see the drone. But I have a Mavic, a little Mavic one, so it's very quick to lose sight of it. If even 200 meters is enough for the thing to be so small you can't see it anymore. So I was flying along. Then this woman pulled up, and I thought she was going to say something about the car, but she was getting out to give out because she's seen the drone, and she was going, "No, you cannot, no, you cannot drive, you cannot fly. And I go, "Yeah, that's fine." But I got enough footage, so it was okay. Then I realised you're not allowed to fly
Where was
drones
it?
in France anymore.
Oh, France.
Yeah, they don't like it in France either. It depends on who you're flying with at the time. Singing Shade
that's true, but
asked the question here: what are Marek's favourite PHEVs as an alternative to EV?
Well, I liked the pre-facelift BMW 3 Series PHEV. That was a very good car. I'm waiting for the new one. I haven't tested the sedan version because I'm waiting for the touring version to come along, and I have it on good authority that it was coming soon, but now it might take a while.
Yeah.
So that was a very good PHEV.
Who knows now, isn't it? It's all who knows. When it might come out soon.
Yes, exactly. The Toyota Prius PHEV is a very good car. It's ugly as they all are, but it's a very good car. It gets really good gas mileage and whatever electric range. If it says 50 or 55, it's going to get 50, 55 without too much hassle. Again, Toyota Prius is not a car you're going to be driving too enthusiastically, but it's a good car. What else?
Do you like ugly cars? I tend to like cars that are quirky, weird-looking things.
Yeah, cars with character.
And that's why I think that Prius, the Prius for me is actually, I kind of like the Prius. I've always liked the Prius.
I like the second gen, the first gen Prius, the one which looks like it has an underbite on it.
Yeah, well, no, that's a bit much.
That's a brilliant car. Toyota Poland organized this event where they had us drive all the Prius generations one after another, and they still have a running first gen which has 300,000-400,000 kilometers on the clock. It's in brilliant shape, and it's a fun car. I really liked it.
I have to ask you to do it now, folks. You need to all click the like button on the stream, please, just to make sure that everybody gets the message that is running, because that's what YouTube is like. YouTube hates you until you do something to interact with the stream. So click the like button. 66 likes. There's 200 people watching.
I just did.
You clicked it. You're this late clicking. I clicked it before we even started. Let's see if we can find another one. Everything seems to be settled down. My Wi-Fi is going well. The stream seems to be running perfectly. Everybody's happy with that. There's an awful lot of weirdos have landed on us. But yeah, TS says, I wouldn't entertain an electric car for the moment, not until charging infrastructure is in place. A hybrid means more sense at the moment. That's the way diesel is being demonized. What's it like in Poland? Is there a good infrastructure in Poland for electric cars, or is it still sporadic?
It's much better than what it was a couple of years ago when first electric cars appeared, and I recall there were problems because we had to like run a extension cord like from a block of flats window, for example. That was funny.
Probably illegal here, in fairness.
My friend had his electric car parked in the underground garage, which was under the his editor's office, whatever, and they managed to short the fuses in the whole building. So that was a bit difficult. However, these days, large cities and sort of main thoroughways, you are okay-ish if you plan. It's not like in the UK where I've recently seen what was it? Is it CarWow? I think the video where they compared like 10 EVs and they wanted to see how far they will go until they run out of juice. So I mean, they were lucky. They had like every 10 or 20 miles they had an exit with a charging station. In Poland, it's more like every 150 kilometers, but there aren't that many electric cars to fill up those charging stations. So it is better. It's not brilliant. It's still something you need to plan. But again, if you live in the city, then you're fine.
My big problem in Ireland is that you don't know whether the charge station's in or out of service. What's working when you get there. What might be broken by the time you're leaving it. I've been to charge stations
we don't know
half work. Some of it's turned on part of the way. It charges at certain rates, but it won't charge at full speed. That's my big problem with them.
That's why you have to use what's the app called? PlugShare, I think, and over there it's the most up-to-date information about whether the charging was okay, what was the charging speed, etc.
Do you know, on my phone for electric cars, I have 6 apps. And I have none for petrol or diesel cars. Like there's no app. I don't need an app at all.
Yeah, these are. Well, I used to have a Mercedes. Connecting to a Mercedes connected car. That's like road through like a path of torture. You have to have a Mercedes Me, Mercedes Connect. You have to have 2 separate accounts, I think.
Oh, wow.
And then you have to connect them somehow. And then possibly through one app, you're going to get in the car and maybe start remotely. From the other app, you're going to set the climate control. And if you ask the 2 of them to talk together to each other, then you might be able to park the car remotely as well.
Oh, yeah, that remote thing. Or even, have you ever tried the BMW reversing thing on the key? That is terrifying to watch the car do.
Well, I actually used it a couple of times. So it worked for me. What I really like in BMWs these days is that kind of memory of the last 50 or so meters, and the car will get out of the parking space for you and follow the path you went in.
Yeah. Not legal here either.
That's brilliant.
We have some strange laws here. You can't do that here. You can't.
Okay.
You can't let go of the steering wheel here. So in our legislation here, we have you must be in control of your vehicle at all time, which the guards here, our police here, take to be keeping your hands on the wheel at all times. So you cannot let go of the steering wheel or do anything like that. So we still have to change our laws for automated driving. We've another question here. Peter Urquhart says, "Hi Bob and Marek, what the hell happened to Honda? They have gone downhill and Hyundai have gone uphill. So what's Honda like in Poland?"
Honda is very lost, like everywhere else in the world, I think. I mean, I know Honda is big in the US with the CR-V and probably in Australia or somewhere, maybe Middle East where they still sell the Accord. But Accord was like the last really good Honda. The old school good Honda that was offered in Europe, and then it disappeared. In Poland, they are, well, they're trying to, not stick their necks out because, the less cars they sell, the less targets they're going to have to meet the next year, I think.
That's true as well. Yeah, you do forget about those trying to get the 95 gram of CO2 thing that they're all trying to reach.
Yeah,
it's much easier just.
It's in Poland. It's either Jazz, Civic, or CRV, and that's pretty much it.
Civic here. Now there's a Honda dealer near me here, and he has opened a Citroen dealer as well because Honda wasn't making enough money for him. But the problem he's got is that Honda sales are so low. He's maintaining a dealership, and Honda's obviously putting pressure on him to upgrade the dealership because it's quite old now, which he doesn't want to do. Obviously, he doesn't want to do. He's not going to sell cars at it. But Honda have such a small selection of cars for sale, and they're all good but expensive. Like the amount of money you spend on a Honda, you can nearly buy an Audi or a BMW for at this stage.
Well, that's always I'm not sure what it's like in Ireland, but in Poland, the premium brands are heavily discounted. And as far as I know, if you go to a dealer, whether it's a BMW or an Audi, they're going to, as we say in Polish, take their knickers off through their head for you. I don't know if it makes sense.
It does, yeah. I know what you mean, yeah.
Well, they're going to go far to satisfy you. I think that's a jest. Anyway, so you can indeed buy an Audi, whether it's an A3 or an A4, at a very good price. They're going to rip you off in service or leasing or whatever later on, but that's a different story. And some brands like Honda, Toyota, they like to stick to their sticker price and not deviate much from it.
Yeah. Christian P, never read out that name before. What do you think about the new Mitsubishi ASX 2020 with a 2-litre atmospheric gasoline engine and 150 horsepower versus a Suzuki Vitara versus Dacia Duster, all on 17,000 to 20,000 pounds or euros or pounds, whatever. Thanks. So one versus the other. Vitara versus Duster versus Mitsubishi ASX.
Right. So the Mitsubishi ASX, as far as I can tell, is the same car for the last 10 years.
Yeah, it is.
And it's got a slightly different fascia. But generally speaking, if you go with the cheapest ASX you can get, front-wheel drive, manual, 5-speed manual, you're getting a bargain of the century, and you should go with that. That's number one. Number two, the Vitara... I liked it when it came out, but I think they made it uglier in the meanwhile.
Yeah, I agree.
And or was it the S-Cross they made it uglier?
S-Cross
one of
was
those.
ugly anyway. Vitara just became ugly over time.
I think the Vitara has okay, I don't want to use the term off-road credentials, but it does have some slight off-road capability, which with the right tires probably would be on par with the Duster. And it's going to be a bit more comfortable than the Duster.
Yeah. I only like the Duster when it gets to sort of mid-spec Duster. It's quite nice looking. Now, to drive is not still a bit rubbish, but it looks well, you know.
Yeah, it does look well. And, if you live somewhere where you need a car to just beat around and you don't care, then the Duster is the way to go. Again, I think you can get a relatively cheap one with with all-wheel drive and manual AC, and that's all you need.
Yeah. Steve O.C. says, do you think there may be a boycott on Chinese cars or parts after this mess? What effect would it have on the production sales?
Are there many Chinese cars these days?
There's none in Europe, really. There's a couple of Chinese companies that own parts of like Volkswagen be well funded by China, but Volkswagen own themselves, really. But there wouldn't be any Chinese cars. But I mean, I know I've seen a press release recently. Where
I think one of the Volvos, I think the S90 or something, is made in China.
Yeah.
Exclusively?
I think that's pretty much all it is in Europe. So I don't have to be any sort of boycott. But, the Chinese obviously make a lot of stuff for cars, electronics-wise and things. But
you do, yeah.
We'll never know what part is Chinese, what part isn't. So you'd never know what kind of effect it'd be on the Chinese.
And anyway, I mean, by the time the part gets here, it's, clean.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Powell says, Marek, what do you think about the end of the Mondeo?
Is there an end to the Mondeo? Finally.
Finally, it's gone. Thanks for the God.
You know what? Ford is not talking to me for the last 2 years or so.
Oh, yeah?
So I haven't been really following the Mondeo. I mean, I know they're axing everything that's not an SUV or a crossover in the States. I wasn't aware that they're axing it in Europe as well. Are they?
Mondeo is dying a death. Yeah, they're going to end the production run for Mondeo here. Well, here in Ireland for sure, but across Europe they're going to get rid of Mondeo and in favour probably of something like Kuga or something, one of those ones.
I mean, the way this Mondeo, which is the Mark 5 or Mark 6, how they destroyed it, I'm not surprised it's not selling. I mean, their policy to go global with everything, it's just not paying off, I think.
No, it's not. The handling was rubbish. It's such a big car. It's a shame. They could have had such a decent little car. You go back to
I mean, I remember the previous generation was such a brilliant car to drive, and as far as I'm concerned, I mean, okay, again, if they introduced it ever so slightly earlier in Europe, not like 2 or 3 years after the States, when whatever arrived to Europe was out of date, maybe it would have stood a chance. But again, the Mondeo, when they made the original Mondeo, the first generation, the brief was that it was supposed to be a driver's car, a car for the traveling salesman, but a driver's car, a car that people would want to drive. And again, nothing wrong with a comfortable Mondeo as it is, but if I'm buying a Mondeo, I'm buying a Mondeo for the driver's car experience, not for the cushy ride.
Yeah, I was the same. The old Mondeo, remember the ST200, which was there as well as a fast car that they had. They've had all those good chances of a car, and I know Ford have been in trouble. Ford US and Ford Europe have been in trouble for years and years now, but they don't seem to have any sort of coherent way forward in Europe. They just seem to just release a car and hope for the best, that it's going to do okay, and the Mondeo has been a casualty of that. And yet the Passat and all the rest of them seem to be able to survive in that market, and they want to get rid of the Mondeo now.
True. I think what I saw in Poland when I started my career as a motoring journalist, Ford presentations in Poland looked as follows. We drove somewhere to a launch location. We checked into the hotel, and then there was a presentation, which was mainly presented by the head of Ford Poland, who would come out on stage and say, guys, I sold everything. So basically, I'll just tell you, and then he would go on a rant about his economic and business experience, which I suppose it might have been interesting to some people, but we didn't find out much about the car. We would drive the car. Obviously, it was already sold, so who gives a... Yeah, so who gives it? And he stayed head of Ford until maybe 3-4 years ago, and I think he retired just in the right moment when he was still the guy who carried Ford on his shoulders in Poland, and he retired to play golf, and since then it's been going downhill.
We had the same problem. We had a retiree here as well who was the managing director of Ford Ireland for 20 years, 25 years. And did a great job. It was in number 1, number 2, number 3 in sales all of the time, and then it was handed over to someone else. They started cutting the budgets. Then they got rid of now there's no managing director for Ford Ireland. He's a sales manager, kind of caretaker manager. It's run from the UK, and that doesn't suit a lot of the Irish dealers here who don't want to have to phone the UK for support. They want to phone someone in Ireland for support. So it's become this kind of problem here. Not saying the Ford isn't still there, but they tend to buy their way into the top kind of 1, 2 and 3 at the moment as well by pre-bridging stuff. Ford dealers here are a very long way back. Ford used to be manufactured in Ireland, in Cork. They were actually assembled here in this country. Henry Ford is actually from Ireland, so there's a long history in Ireland about Ford, but it seems to be not paying off at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they lost their until it was selling, and then something changed, and they have no idea what to do with it.
My stuff IRL says, greetings from Cork. He's living in Cork. He's from Gdansk. Good to see you both on one channel for once. That's good. That's a good start. TS says, hi Bob and Marek. Been looking for a 2017 BMW 4 Series Grand Coupe 420i. What do you think of them, about them? Thanks. What do you think of the 4 Series? It's 2017 now, 4 Series.
well, first of all, 20i would be grossly underpowered.
Buy a big one.
Why not a diesel?
Yeah, diesel. You're going to get torque from a diesel, and you get fuel economy from a diesel. Generally, the petrol engines that are coming out here are quite low pressure. You know, they don't have a lot of torque, they don't have a lot of performance to go with them. They're designed for fuel economy, and they're designed to come in on a cheap tax. That's why we have like a 2 litre or 2.2 litre I here. Diesel ones that give you a good performance, gives you a nice bit of torque, nice bit of pressure when you're driving around corners. It's just going to feel like a better car. If you want a petrol particularly, then buy a big petrol.
Yeah, I mean, what was it at the time? Was it 28 or 30?
For what?
I think it was called 428. The decent petrol.
Yeah, or 430i, something 430d.
Yeah,
is the diesel one. Eric Rochford says, hopefully Bob and Marek can do something together in person when these restrictions are over and things are back to normal. Don't think everything's ever going to be back to normal, but we'll try and do something. Yeah,
we will try to do something.
Yeah. Renault requesting 5 billion from the French government is not a good omen for their future. What do you think of the bailout? Another bailout for Renault, should I say?
Well, okay. I'm not getting into the details of whether or not they really need the bailout. However, usually when there is a car company, there are plenty of other smaller companies around it that depend on it. So it's going to be hard for the government to refuse because it's a big industry.
It is. I mean, BMW Germany have 76,000 people working in one little section of Germany, just one part of the manufacturing area, and that's direct employees rather than thinking about the people the shops around it, places that serve them, the restaurants that build up around the edge of where the people live, the accommodation. There's millions of people work just for one car company. So Renault is a gigantic group, so if they're in trouble, there's a lot of jobs going to go if they go.
Exactly. In Poland, it's about 200,000 people working in the automotive production sector. And then together with all the companies around it, that would be about 2 million people. So there's a big and strong workforce to think about.
Yeah, and in Spain, the biggest employer in the entire country is SEAT. So
exactly.
It's very hard to kind of dismiss a car company and say, well, let them die. Sometimes you need to kind of think about the bigger picture of whether you like a car brand or not like a car brand. It makes a difference. You don't want them to fall by the wayside at the same time. Evil Smurf.
Not even Ford.
No, not even Ford. Evil Smurf. Do you think car manufacturers are keeping EV prices artificially high to prop up ICE sales, internal combustion engine sales? Don't know about artificially high. It's expensive, isn't it? Batteries are expensive, aren't they?
The batteries are expensive, and I think much of the research and development that goes into electric cars is because the car companies are forced to do it rather than because they want to do it.
That's true, yeah. A lot of the car companies were happy enough to continue with petrol and diesel. And I'm not talking about even from a CO2 emissions point. They'd put up years and years and years into making petrol diesel engines very, very efficient. And then all of a sudden we all want electric cars. So there's a lot of pressure on them now to generate electric cars. So the cost of production, the cost of research is now getting shared. You see a lot of the car companies are tying up together to do this kind of shared technology stuff going on because it's just so expensive. So a lot of car companies find it expensive, but there is a certain premium level attached to it as well when it comes to electric cars. I saw a statistic recently that most electric car owners own an Apple device. So they own an iPhone. They buy a very latest Apple version of a device. So was it something like 92% of Tesla owners have an iPhone? So there's something in that premium level of stuff that people buy, premium equipment with electric cars.
It could be sort of an alternative to a premium car. Instead of buying a BMW, you can buy an electric Volkswagen.
Yeah. Yeah. Spend €40,000 on a Volkswagen instead of spending €40,000 on a 3 Series.
I think there are many of them sort of standing and waiting to be released, the 10,000 ID3s right now. And thank God for coronavirus for them, because now they have time to update the software.
This is true, yeah. Massive software problems with them as well, yeah. Paul Hickey says, hi lads, any thoughts on the hydrogen cars making an appearance in the next few years? Do you have any hydrogen fuel stations in Poland?
one or two, I think. There was, we do have one for sure, and I think I read a press release about a couple opening sort of along this corridor through Poland. Toyota presented what's it called, the ugly one? Well, they're all ugly.
The ugly one. Yes, I know the one. I've seen it. I've sat in it.
That one.
That thing, yes.
That one, yeah. So they presented it a couple of years ago, and now there is a second generation which looks like less ugly. And
that be
as far as I know, I've spoken to BMW about it. I was at a meeting with some BMW top brass, and I asked about hydrogen, and they said we see it as a fuel or a method of propulsion for bigger cars like SUVs. So I would imagine that since they have their production based in the US for SUVs, they're thinking about long distance driving, something which electric cars in the US obviously are not very good at. So they might want to beat Tesla with hydrogen.
Yeah, that's true.
And SUVs.
Yeah, hydrogen. The problem for hydrogen is it's as expensive as electric cars, essentially, because it's very hard to store and very hard to do. And hydrogen isn't everywhere. This is the biggest issue of hydrogen is you have to build hydrogen fuel stations, but electricity is already everywhere. We run everything pretty much on electricity now. So you could be deepest, darkest west of Ireland and find a plug to plug a car into.
True, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah, it will. It's going to be a good few years before we actually see anything useful. I think commercial industries might find better use for hydrogen, something like buses or trucks or large vehicles.
I think hydrogen buses are going around Brussels.
Yep.
I think,
and they have been. There's some in Berlin as well. They've been running them there for a few years. Let's see if we can find another question. Maciek S says, "What's a good new weekend fun car you would recommend? Price range 50 to 60 grand euro. Well, there's millions of cars in that range.
Well, I think you could go with a Nissan 370Z there.
Yeah, you must go all the way in.
Easily.
Yeah, just go straight to the very top of it and get the fastest thing you can find. For 50, 60 grand, you definitely pick up loads of used second-hand. Particularly if you look at the Japanese range of stuff, they make great engines and they make great drivers' cars. The interiors are generally a little bit plasticky, but they're still such good fun.
You could go with a Mark 4 Supra, I guess, for this kind of money easily and have money to fix it up.
Yeah, and you can have something you can really tinker about with. Something that's difficult to get started on a Saturday morning, but when you get it started, it's going to be great fun. Paul O'Connor says, I was considering changing my car this year, but no, I'm thinking of seeing how much it would cost to retrofit a virtual cockpit. Any suggestions to this if Irish companies do it? Virtual cockpit can be a very expensive thing. It's specifically for most cars. So if you look at Volkswagen do great virtual cockpit, so does Audi's, those kind of cars. So depends on the car. If you can get something to fit is the problem.
I've seen recently a press release by, well, actually I've seen it on a website, but it was a press release by Continental, who have this digital instrument cluster for the one of the high-end Hyundai's Genesis something S80 or whatever they're called in the US, and basically it's a sort of tablet-like structure, slightly bigger than a mobile phone, maybe like a phablet. There was a term like that a few years ago when you had something between a smartphone and a tablet, and I guess it's just a matter of finding a right cutout there and putting some software in.
I know for my Seat Leon there is a stereo that I can replace in the front, which is a full touchscreen with Bluetooth, and you can get Android Auto and everything else on it, and it can be fitted into a 14-year-old car.
Also, when you have those sort of racing instrument clusters for racing, I think you could easily fit it into a normal car. I think one of my friends has it installed in a 15-year-old Opel Astra. Vauxhall Astra for you guys out there.
Mark Turner Smith says, what are you most looking forward to reviewing this year? I suppose coronavirus put an end to that though, hasn't it?
Well, I was looking forward to the new Defender, obviously.
Yeah, me too.
I was looking forward to I wish I could look back in my calendar, but I had to delete everything from the calendar so I wouldn't get confused. I'm looking forward to the Taycan. Or Taycan, I never know how to pronounce it.
Ever get one,
this is going to be, this is going to be interesting, just to see if it's any good. There is was. I was supposed to do it in early April, but now we moved it to a much later date. It's a Renault Megane Trophy RS or RS Trophy.
Good car,
and I arranged it with Renault so that I could get some track time with the car to film it on track, and then so I could take it up in the mountains for a couple of days to drive it properly, have a second car to do car-to-car shots, etc. So if we go to anything resembling normal, I mean, I don't mind social distancing at this moment because the less people approach me when I'm filming, the better.
Yeah.
So I have my hidden agenda here, but if it's gonna happen sometime around June, then this is something I'm looking forward to.
Hitster says refusing an EV because of some payback concern is like refusing a Mercedes S-Class on the same grounds. I don't think that's quite the same somehow. The value you get from an S-Class versus the value you get from a fairly standard EV is very different. You're in two different markets for sure.
Well, the S-Class is going to depreciate heavily.
Yep, it sure does. But most people who buy an S-Class can easily afford that depreciation, or they lease them, so they don't care. The depreciation doesn't really affect someone who's leasing the things. Roger Fua, never heard that name before either. In Southeast Asia, every fifth car is either a Jazz, a Fit, or a HRV. God, do you remember the Honda Fit? What an ugly little car that is.
Well, that's the Jazz.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, you mean? Oh, okay. You had the 3-door Fit,
Fit thing, yeah.
the tiny city car, like an app competitor.
Look. Robert Doyle says, Bob, Marek, have you ever driven a Honda HRV 1.6 diesel? I haven't here. I think it's not a bad, comfortable car. Can be a little bit sluggish. What do you think of Honda HRV?
No, I've driven the whatever petrol they have in it, 1.5, I think.
We had the diesel here for a while. It's okay. I don't like Honda's infotainment system. I never have. It's a clunky, weird thing.
These days, it does Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so you don't care that much.
That's my favourite thing these days, is not having to review the infotainment system, but just going, it's got Apple CarPlay. Forget about it. Don't worry about it, because everybody uses CarPlay these days. Dan Whelan says, last Accord was priced to compete with the 3 Series. Lovely car, but would you be mad to buy it over a BMW or similar? Would you buy a Honda Accord?
Well, not for that kind of price, no. But I don't remember what it cost in Poland, the last one we had. It was fairly expensive, but not BMW expensive. It was just a brilliant car to drive, and I could get it to sort of do lift-off oversteer, which... Not exactly if it's something you're looking for in a family car, but
it's an important feature, though, right? A bit of oversteer is always a bit nice. It does make the drive interesting. Mamin says, my US spec 2018 Honda Accord 2-litre Sport is amazing. It has a Type R engine, slightly detuned, with an upgraded suspension. It's a better driver than the A4 or the 3 Series for 12 grand less. That's a US price. He's in the US.
Ah, lucky him.
Yeah, the US prices are completely different than the prices we have over here.
Yeah.
Particularly if the car is assembled in the US, you get there's taxes that are getting rid of and everything out of the US. Edwin Foley says, hi guys, I drive a VW T6 as my workhorse, but looking for a Sunday driver, thinking of an early 1990s Mercedes E-Class Coupe W124, pillarless. Any views?
Ooh. Now... Do you have a lot of time on your weekends? It's not that this car is unreliable. It's that either it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to buy one that's good, and even then, you're going to spend time and money putting it back to an even better shape that you can actually drive it rather than have it plugged in on a charger and hope the battery doesn't die.
When they're working, they're brilliant. They're beautiful looking cars. They go really well, but when they break, which is frequently, it will break your heart to have to fix that car the whole time, and you will be, Edwin, in fairness to you. Now, look, if you like tinkering around with cars, you like getting your hands dirty on the weekend, if that's what you want, is a sort of a weekend fun yoke, that's fine, that's okay.
But he said Sunday driver.
Sunday driver, yeah. No, you're not going to do
not Sunday lie under the car.
It could be every second Sunday. You know, you could be spending one Sunday fixing it, the next Sunday maybe we'll actually drive the car as well, to part of that. What was I just saw there a second ago? Oh yeah, Footy Ferrari asked the two of us, what video on your channel did you most enjoy making and why? So you first. I can't remember.
Me first. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just.
What's your favorite?
Let me just. Okay. I was very satisfied with the way the DS7 video worked out, but that's a beautiful car, and I had a lot of time to play around with the shots of the headlights, turning around and stuff like that. Something I really enjoyed doing was the Porsche 911 992 video. It was a road trip video, and for this year I had planned to do at least one road trip every month, and it all went to yeah, but I enjoyed it. Again, this was a very good car. I was well prepared for it. We went with 2 cars. We had reserved a location for it, and it was I like to have things planned, and when they go more or less according to plan. The only thing that went wrong with that review was the weather when we were recording the sort of intro and outro. We were actually on scenic point on top of the mountain, which we had secured for us. They literally gave us the keys to the forest. I arranged it with the local national park to let me film there. They gave me the keys to open the gateway to go up there. We went there in this terrible fog. I mean, this was the first time sorry, I touched the microphone. Sorry about that. The road was so narrow that then you would have, there would be like 15 minutes to go up, 15 minutes to go down. The road was so narrow that the 911 barely fit. And it was so foggy that I was sitting like that on, trying to see over the steering wheel to actually see where I was going. We got to this scenic point, and I hoped we got over the fog, over the clouds, but unfortunately we didn't. So that was the only, it would be a cherry on top to have this beautiful sunrise and a mountain panorama, but we didn't get this. So, yeah.
There's always fun bits. I remember I did one with Sinead McCann on the end of the Yeti. We went up to Donegal to film it, and the local council gave us the not only the keys, but they actually closed the bloody road for us as well to be able to drive up this mountain. Wow. It's actually a footpath up the mountain, but we decided to drive a Yeti up the mountain instead. It was just a fun shoot. I don't know if the fun actually comes over in the video as much as the fun we actually had when we were shooting it, because there was a crew, a camera crew. Kevin Cantrell, a good friend of mine, he's a camera crew there as well, and Skoda were there themselves, and there's myself and Sinead as well, and we could say what we want and do whatever we liked in the car. So it was a bit of fun to do that one. That was a good one. But on my own, making my own video was an Audi. We did an Audi S6 video in an airport in Ireland, in Weston. We closed down the airport and drove around the track. But I made a historical video out of Audi Quattro of that, and I was actually kind of happier with that video than I have been with pretty much any other video. And I'm in it very little. In the actual video, it's a historical look at Audi Quattro and what it did for the world. But I suppose, even from your point of view, how much do you plan a lot of the video, or do you how much effort do you put into each of the videos? Is it a long run, or is it like go today and film?
Okay, so it all depends. There are cars that I would like to show them in a sort of more special way. And that I try to arrange with a further down the road. Some cars, if I haven't been at a launch event, or if I haven't been one of the first ones to test it in Poland, then, whatever. If it's going to come out in a month or 2 or 3, doesn't matter. So for cars like that, I like to plan. I speak with the press office and I tell them that I have bigger things planned for this car, and that I need it exactly then and then, and make sure you reserve. There are no track events before that. This is what happened with the 911. The 911, I was supposed to shoot it sometime in May or June, but it was a brand new car. It returned from a truck day event without brake pads, and they couldn't get the brake pads for the brand new 992 like overnight delivery, which is why I had to postpone it till autumn. But then I told the guy, dude, I really need the car for like a week. I need it to be in on tip-top condition. I'd like to have all four tires with some thread left on them, etc., etc. And I think it came out good.
Borkas LT says, what do you think about a Suzuki Swift Sport as a daily car?
Brilliant car.
Yeah, good car. A bit stiff
car.
On suspension, and the fuel tank's quite small, but other than that, it's a brilliant car.
It's it sort of gives you enough fun without you losing the license.
Yeah, it is. And those little cars like the VW Up and all those little cars, you can really rag those cars and you'll enjoy it because you're never going fast enough to really do anything dangerous. They're quite small. You can have great fun in them. Question for both. Would you buy a modern Peugeot, says Simon Thompson. Would you buy a modern Peugeot, Marek? No, I wouldn't.
I was looking forward to the new 208.
Yes, yeah, E208.
And if the 208 had the Clio interior, it would be a great car. Also, I had a problem with the Peugeot twist beam. I mean, there are twist beams in so many cars, but Peugeot, when they do it, they do really twist beam. I mean, you're in mid corner and all of a sudden, the car sort of tightens. Like, what's happening?
Yeah, and the problem I have is the little small steering wheels and the infotainment. So there's just so many things that you will either like or you don't like. There isn't a sort of a middle ground, like a Volkswagen or a Skoda or something. No one really hates those cars. No one really loves those cars. But with a Peugeot...
But you get in and you know where everything is.
And it's really logical. And everything's laid out in a nice way. And, the electrics always work. And everything seems to be working okay. But when you get into a Peugeot, sometimes you just kind of go, God, I wish they'd just make a normal size steering wheel and bring things a bit closer to me because it's too far away, or more storage.
Oh, that thing, the iCockpit, whatever it's called, the small steering wheel and the instrument cluster, I don't mind that. It's the center.
Yeah, the center console is another problem. For me, I don't like this. I prefer just a normal steering wheel, normal speedo there in front of me. I don't like the idea where it is.
You are probably one of those people that have a problem with it because you're too tall.
Yeah, I am, I'm too tall for a Peugeot, which is not a great thing to say for a car. You're too tall for a car. Powell asks you, what do you think about the future of diesel engines in passenger cars? And remember this, before you even answer that question, Poland, where you live, is considerably bigger than Ireland, where I live. I mean, physically, it's just a much bigger country. So diesel makes a hell of a lot of sense in anywhere in Europe, in fairness to it.
Yes and no. Okay, so I think everyone, all of Europe was enchanted by the diesel, which was, pushed by the Germans and the French, who have a lot of motorways and they do a lot of motorway miles. But when it comes to running a diesel around the city, it stops being such a brilliant idea, especially with the DPF clogging up and everything. Yep. So if you are in the business of doing whatever, 100, 200 kilometers every day because your lifestyle requires it, then a diesel is a great choice for you. But buying it as your only car because you're going for a longer vacation once or twice a year, that's not a good idea. So I think this is what you should consider regardless of where you are buying a diesel car.
Yeah, if you're persistently doing short journey trips, then diesel doesn't really make a lot of sense. Plus, a diesel car tends to be more expensive than its petrol alternative. So here it's about $2,500 to $3,000 more expensive to buy a diesel versus a petrol for the same kind of level of equipment. To get that back out of it, you need to be doing very high mileage because diesel is slightly cheaper at the pumps than it is for petrol. So there's a balancing act. If you're going to go at it from a monetary point of view, a diesel, if you're doing high mileage, diesel works. It's particularly if you're sitting on a motorway all day. But if you're doing short mileage, petrol is probably better for you, or electric would be even better again. John Casey asks, is the Tesla Model 3 common in Poland? I think it's common everywhere now, isn't it?
Tesla is, well, actually, Poland is, we're still, like, Tesla ends in Germany. We do have one Tesla. I think they're an unofficial dealership because they're not called whatever Tesla PL, but Tesla Warsaw PL. And as far as I can tell, they just import cars from Germany for people who are too dumb to understand English or German and buy a car online by themselves. So in Poland, you go to a dealership in Warsaw, to a physical dealership, you ask the guy whether he can rip you off, and he will do that gladly. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. If you don't want to learn your languages, then you're going to pay like whatever 10-20% over the sticker price in Germany for a Tesla.
Yeah, it's true. We have one. Well, when I said dealership, it's kind of a service department and what they call experience center. So you go in, you tell them you want a Tesla. They say how many miles do you do a year. You go 40,000. You go, nah, go across the road and buy an Audi. It's much better for you. So it's an experience center, but it works out very well for them because you entrap a customer in the dealership. You get them to sit in the cars and they can look around, and you don't have to sell them anything. And it's one of the few kind of dealerships that are left that Tesla still run, is the one in Ireland because it has a service center.
We have a Tesla service center, that's for sure, and that was fairly recent because otherwise you would have to, put a car on a flatbed truck and send it to Germany.
We were going to be sending them up to Belfast.
Yeah, so now we have a service center in Warsaw.
Robert says, Marek, where do you holiday in Poland, and where would you recommend? Obviously, most of Poland.
Okay, so I don't holiday much because when I holiday, I am usually thinking about cars.
I do the same. I take pictures of
when
cars.
When I have a few days off. Okay, I love going to Wrocław or Breslau, as it was called in during the German era. So I like going to Wrocław, which is southwest Poland. First of all, I've got friends there, and we usually get pissed out of our heads. And secondly, this is when I'm not driving, obviously. And secondly, from there, it's an hour and a half to some very picturesque roads where I like to film. So if we don't get totally wasted, then I usually plan the trip for like stay with our friends for a weekend, and then go up in the mountains, film something or whatever.
Sort of a working holiday, like.
So, yeah. So this is my favorite place to go. Also, I like to go to Zakopane, which is the mountain ski resort. However, there is a caveat here. I like to go there 2-3 times a year, which is usually close to some other holiday, and then I'm absolutely certain nobody's going to be there, because everybody's reserving whatever the holiday long weekends, etc., etc. And I go there like a week earlier. So nobody's there. I have like the whole hotel to myself, which is also brilliant. And again, usually we take a car there and we usually film at least some drive-by shots and some drone shots because, since we're there.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same. When I go on holidays, even if I go, like I went to France a couple of years ago for a week with the kids down to one of those Euro camp places, a little campsite thing. And we hired out a car. We hired out a Corsa. And immediately my first instinct was to take pictures of my hire car and start reviewing it and getting in and going, but it's just a hire car. Just stop thinking about the car. My wife, every time, stop reviewing the car. Like, the fuel economy is rubbish in it. But that was just my experience. But there's a good question here. I noticed a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about this earlier on as well, off air, but the World Car of the Year came up the other day.
Oh, yes.
Of which the two of us commented on the overall winner. So
what were they thinking?
It's a World Car of the Year that only comes out in the US. So
well, technically, it also comes out in whatever 5 other markets. Oh, yeah. Apparently, okay. So we had this discussion. We had a Polish juror who posted it on a group for whatever car journalists, and he posted the results, whatever, and we started discussing it. And one of our friends well, many of us actually questioned the choice of Kia Telluride.
Yeah.
Not that it's a bad car; it's probably a brilliant car.
I've never driven.
However, we were wondering whether it really meets the criteria. So, I have the criteria.
Okay.
The criteria are that the car has to be available in, I think, 5 markets and on 2 continents, which, okay, is doable.
Okay.
It doesn't sound much like a world car, but it is what it is. So, a friend of mine did some research, and he found that, okay, they sold about 60,000 of them in the US, 3,000 in Canada, 1,600 for the Middle East, 47 for Latin America.
47.
And they weren't even selling it in Korea at the time of the juror rides, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, they do meet the continent and the market criteria. It's just that they sell very little of these cars. And again, I have nothing against Kia. I think Kia EV, which won the whatever Urban City Car of the Year award, brilliant car. But Kia Telluride as the World Car of the Year, and it's a huge SUV. And okay, I get it; it's going to sell in the States.
Yeah, they do. Like in fairness, all the US, if it's not a big SUV, they don't really want to know about it.
I mean, even if you read their whatever press blurbs for the past whatever 5 or 6 months since the car came out, it's all designed in the US, made in the US for the US market. So whatever the 10 or 20 odd thousand cars they sold everywhere else in the world, that's just, just to be able to win the title.
My wife just delivered me coffee, which she does, but she has to come up the stairs to do it now. I used to do the Sunday service from the kitchen, so I've moved up this great big room up here, which makes it much easier for me. But now I get coffee delivered to me. This is deadly. I should do this. You should be on my channel more often, in fairness, because it makes life an awful lot easier when someone else can answer some of the questions. Powell asks, Marek, which car brand marketing staff do you have the best contact relation with? None of them would say, because most people hate us, don't they?
No, it's all right. I think I have pretty good relations with BMW, with Hyundai, with Volkswagen, obviously, as everyone else does. Yep. I think these would be sort of my Toyota. Yeah.
I'd probably list the same people among the ones that maybe not so much Hyundai anymore because I didn't like their last car. But in fairness, most car companies, a lot of people comment and go, "Is this person employed by Ford when you like a Ford?" Or is it, they always have some sort of comment to make about it. And I do get those comments a lot when I review a Skoda or Volkswagen because I like them. But for the most part, car companies don't really care about your opinion about the car. They just want you to talk about the car. They want you to social media, take pictures and send out tweets. And they don't really care if it's negative because they'll spin it to a positive anyway. That's what their job is.
That's one way of looking at it. Ford Poland might disagree with you on this one.
Ford Ireland might agree with you as well.
But whatever, I think as long as the criticism is well-founded and justified, I mean, if something breaks in your hand and you obviously just touched it, it's not like you're doing it on purpose.
You're not looking for it.
If you say, look out because this might be inconvenient for you, then it might be inconvenient. And anyway, if you sort of do it long enough and you change the car from generation to generation, from facelift to facelift, you will notice that some of the things that we talk about get improved.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, especially when there's a consensus. When enough journalists say the suspension isn't great, you'll find the next generation will have better suspension. Almost always. Yeah. And it's the same for pretty much any brand of car that you choose out. If they think that they're getting a lot of... Because in fairness, no matter what journalist we look at, we're probably the most experienced rear ends on the market because we're in and out of maybe 60, 70, 80 cars a year. And then that doesn't even include some of the international launches where it's into the hundreds.
And again, this is good and bad, because on the one hand, if you drive a car for a year, you know it inside and out, and many of my viewers will tell me, if you've read the manual, if you spend a lot more time with the car. Yes. However, I like to think that if a car is well designed, doesn't matter if it's a Volkswagen, a Toyota, a Hyundai, a Peugeot, whatever, if I get in it, and no matter how funky and how quirky it is, it can be quirky, but I can find my way around it, then it's well designed. Yep. And yes, I'm with bring back the knobs as well, because this is a question I see here from Karmaka.
Bring back the knobs.
Yes. Yeah. I like a good knob.
I have a T-shirt that says "Bring back knobs" written on it.
I should buy one of your T-shirts then.
See, it's because it's very important, because you don't even think. You just reach out, you turn, you twist, change the air conditioning, whatever it is, and you don't have to think about touch screens or anything else.
One of the things I got caught out on, and this was my mistake, it was the heated mirrors in the Skoda, because I'm used to the fact that heated mirrors are usually somehow associated with the windscreen defroster. Sorry, not with the windscreen, with the rear window defroster. And in Volkswagen Group, they have a slight knob. Yes, they have a knob, which is good, and they have it next to the mirror controls, whatever. It's the mirror control knob which you twist, and then the heated mirrors come on. And it's something I probably should have known or should have looked up more. I posted the review, and then I thought, it's there. I mean, I drive these cars like regularly, and I forgot.
Yeah, I'm the same. There's lots of little things you forget in cars when you jump in and out of them so often. The problem is we never really... Lots of people ask us about reliability of cars. They come on and go, how reliable is it? We only get them for a week. They come
well, the only car that broke down on me was a Renault. When they gave me the car broke down before I left the press office. Right. So I go back to the guy and say, dude, there's like a Christmas tree on the instrument cluster.
I love that.
So the guy said something on the lines of that I'm not going to say, and he sent a mechanic. The mechanic sort of fiddled with it. He unplugged the battery, put it back on, and said, fine, it's reset. Like, are you sure I can drive this car out of here? And he hands me a business card for a towing company, and it's like, they know what you mean if you're gonna call.
They know you.
And it broke down on me. It did break down on me. Renault Espace, this generation, it had some electrical issues, and
I had an Alfa Romeo breakdown in my garage. It was driving fine, drove it home, was great, parked in the garage, never started again, had to be towed out of my garage. I had a Mercedes C-Class with these lights came on the dashboard. I was driving on the motorway, but all of the lights came on the dashboard, then they all went out, then they all came on again. And the car was driving fine, but all the lights kept going on and off, so I had to bring that car back. I think that was the only one that actually kind of broke in any major way. Most of the cars we get, press cars, mind you, are usually checked by a mechanic before we ever
usually.
Usually they're very carefully done.
I do remember a BMW 3 Series Coupe. That was back when there was still 3 Series Coupe. So a while ago. I sort of got in it in the garage, the press fleet garage. I pressed the starter button, and the dials went up and down the scale, and nothing happens. So again, I called them, and apparently they had the whatever service training upstairs. So they had like this group of service experts who came down, carrying a whiteboard with them for whatever reason. But, they sort of left the meeting in a hurry, just to see what broke down. They tried putting the car on. They failed. They drove me home, apologized, and later they called me that it wasn't a breakdown. It wasn't a malfunction. It was actually a safety thing, because the frameless windows that sort of go up and down, especially when you open the door, they go down like half an inch or something. These frameless windows, they didn't break down as such. However, they kept going up all the time. And as a safety feature, the car would not start because blah, blah, blah.
I love when it's just safety features blamed or user errors. Not what you get.
But the car never broke down.
Oh, of course not. Oh, no. Never broke down. If you have never been to my channel before, hit the subscribe button. You can find support messages and things down below there for super chats and all that sort of stuff. If you've never seen Marek before, there's a link down below in the comments to his channel. So go over there and hit the subscribe button as well, as all his reviews come out in English and Polish. So you can get 2 languages for the price of 1. Dan Whelan says, is the BMW 530e still a good buy for the next few years? Or better to wait for BMW to release the full electric 5 Series or even i4? i4 is a long way off yet, though, isn't
it? Well, especially now. I don't think I've driven the plug-in hybrid 5 Series.
530 is nice. It's a big car, but very short range on the plug-in bit. You will, Dan, be plugging that thing in every day. And if you're doing any kind of commuting, you're going to be plugging it in twice a day. It's going to get it's an expensive enough car electrically because it's such a big heavy thing, but it's a beautiful car to drive. Of course, most BMWs are, in fairness to them. When Christian P says, when will arrive to Europe the new Hyundai Elantra 2020, and what do you think about it versus the Renault Megane, the Skoda Octavia? Thanks. Elantra.
I think it's a slightly bigger car, isn't it?
Elantra's quite a big lump.
No, sorry, Elantra or
is Elantra Saloon? I have to look that up.
Hold on a sec. Let me just see which. No, I mixed it up with Sonata. I mixed it up with the Sonata. The Sonata is beautiful, and the Elantra. Well, we do have Elantra in Poland. I think I've reviewed it a couple of months ago, and I think Poland is one of the few countries which actually gets the Elantra in Europe.
Yeah.
Because compact sedans aren't a big thing in Western Europe. It's for the East European men with mustaches.
I like that thought. Daniel Wan says, 2 of my favourite YouTubers in one video. Has Christmas come early or what? There you go. You subscribe to both. Daniel, you're on the ball. Mick Daly, hi guys. Between the new Duke or the Peugeot 2008 or 2008 will hold its value over 3 years. Now, value is a different thing entirely, Mick Daly. Duke or Peugeot 2008 that will hold their value. Essentially, they're nearly the same underneath. I know it's Nissan, Duke and Peugeot, but essentially underneath they're going to be the same. The Duke is, I think, a nicer looking car. What do you think?
You're mixing it up with the Captur.
Renault Captur, sorry.
Duke and Captur are the same. The Peugeot is, slightly different. The Peugeot 2008, well, my test drive got cancelled. It was supposed to start next week, but for obvious reasons it was cancelled. So I am looking forward to this car, and I like that you can have it in 3 powertrains, so that's cool. And Renault is still waiting for the hybrid to come out. I think they're going to have a plug-in hybrid, I think, for the Captur. Yeah. But that's obviously delayed for now.
Mini Egg says, how long do you think VW can hold on losing 2 billion a week?
That's a good question.
That's a lot of money.
I mean, they're not the only company losing money like this. So, I mean, okay, they are losing money because they're keeping people still employed. So they could obviously start reducing the workforce, but let's hope this is going to. I'm not saying this is going to be over anytime soon, because it's not going to be over. But let's hope that we're going to return to some sort of business in maybe a month or so.
It's the business part.
So let's hope they can survive another month.
We're the same over here. We're still looking at another 3 weeks of lockdown from this, but at the same time they're still starting to worry about getting business back on the road, because as much as we don't want anyone more to get infected, without business in the future, none of us have jobs. Jobs and money has to turn over for everybody to be able to buy stuff.
Exactly.
So we can't put it, even if it is, I know cars aren't necessarily a brand new car is not your most essential purchase of all time, but we still got to get back to work is the big thing.
Yeah, I mean, while we still can. And, I don't mind the restrictions, the sort of social distancing and everything. A lot of stuff can be ordered online, whether it's from your favorite restaurant or, groceries from the store. So, we can live like that. And speaking of deliveries will need cars. So
They will, and trains.
Maybe we'll have to start reviewing panel vans soon.
Yeah, or boats, or I don't know, airplanes, electric airplanes, or something. A little model plane. See, Johnny Smith seems to like little model remote control cars. I didn't know this about him.
Yes, he does. He did a review of something around Christmas, something he got for Christmas. I remember that.
Have you noticed as well, Fully Charged has taken in the guy who's gone off Top Gear. Can't remember his name. It's terrible, isn't it? Someone in the comments is going to tell me what his name is now, but it just started in with the guy who used to be on Top Gear on Fully Charged.
I mean, I know they've changed it. I know they've changed the presenter. I just haven't seen the new show because I think Andy O'Reilly. Elantra is not an i40. Elantra is actually a compact car made on the older platform than the i30. An i40 is an executive saloon. So that's not the same car.
Good question here. If you had to choose only one car for the rest of your life, what would it be? To drive for the rest of your life, I take it that means. This is very difficult for motoring journalists because motoring journalists can never even choose their own bloody car to buy for 2 years.
Hey, I have an MX-5 for the last 6 years and I love it.
That's true. You got all your camera equipment in the boot of an MX-5.
Well, that's the problem. I can't fit it in anymore, so I need something with a bigger boot. It's great for filming because, a camera person can hang out of the car with an open roof, and that's brilliant.
Yeah. I have sat, I have a claim to fame, I've sat backwards in an MX-5 on Mondello Park, driving around filming motorbikes, zooming past me, but I was sitting backwards in the seat. So MX-5s are brilliant camera cars.
For that, yeah. As far as a car that I would, if it was like one only car, I think what I would like is a previous generation Phantom Coupe.
Good idea. That's a good idea. That's the one with the ship on the back, the boat, the wooden bit on the back of it, that one. No? That's a car that looks well.
It's a car that looks well. It's a Phantom, so it's the big one. Obviously, it shows that you have some money and maybe slight amount of taste. Also, it's a coupe, so nobody's going to accuse you of being your own chauffeur.
That's true. You actually look like you're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Marek S asks, how will car pricing look in the next few months? And this has come up for everybody. I've noticed this in the last while has asked me the same questions. Will we get bargains because of what's happening with the car companies right now?
Well, that depends when we're going to go back to something resembling business as normal.
Yeah. I mean, what about used cars, though? I mean, right now we're not selling any cars, essentially. The car sales in Ireland in March was down 65%, along with used cars. The UK was down 78% in March. So, like, they're huge numbers. And now most of the dealerships are closed. So, even used cars, when we get back to anything even remotely open and dealerships running again, are they going to just start giving away cars, or are they going to actually start selling something?
Okay, so it depends how much they manage to... Okay, let's say right now it's a closed system. They're not getting new cars because production stopped. So it depends how much they manage to sell while we're under lockdown. Because if they have stock available, then they're going to discount it heavily before the new stuff comes in. If they manage to get rid of stock through the internet or whatever, then cars are the demand is gonna go up again, and there's gonna be a shortage, so prices will stay.
Footy Ferrari asks, what makes a video go viral? Your Toyota CHR video has nearly 2 million views.
I wish I knew.
Same, yeah.
I would do many more of these. I think it was a combination of this being a very sought after car. Well, the review was sought after because it was something completely new for Toyota, and I got it relatively early, and and then it's down to the YouTube algorithm.
I think a lot of the algorithm, what happens is if everybody says, so if I upload a video the same time as you upload a video about the same car, then YouTube goes, look, 2 people are uploading a video about that, and then it looks for more, and then it sees the UK guys are doing it, the French guys. If we're all talking about it at once, the algorithm tends to favour the people that it favoured all along. So it looks at your subscriber level and kind of gives more credence or more weight to your video over somebody else's. But generally speaking, nobody in the world actually knows what makes a video go viral, other than we know it's topical. So right now you can have a viral video if you can make a coronavirus video about cars. You'd probably have some sort of viral video about it, because coronavirus is very close to the top.
But again, that's a double-edged sword, because if they realize the video is just a clickbait, then they're going to bury it again. So
it's a tough one. It's a really impossible question.
It is.
That one. Ban Powell asks, have both of you have reviewed the Vauxhall Ampera? Do you feel that it's a car worth purchasing today, or outdated technology that will depreciate very quickly? I think it's kind of a cool car, actually.
Okay, so I'm not sure how it will be perceived under various regulations in various countries, because theoretically it was supposed to be an all-electric, but in some markets it's been classified as a plug-in hybrid. And that could be completely different. If it's a plug-in hybrid, for example, then in Poland, in Warsaw at least, you can't use the bus lanes. And if it's a full electric, then you can use the bus lanes. So it's little things like that. It will depend on where you are.
They never put enough money, and plus when it came out, it was a 4-seat, very expensive car in Ireland. It never even really went on sale, which was a bit of a problem, because there is a big barrier in the middle. You can't put a third person in the back seat. The boot wasn't terribly big, but I actually liked it. I thought it was a fun car. Briefly, I have a small claim to fame with that car. I was on the international launch of it over in Germany, and I went down. We were supposed to get the best fuel economy from the car, was the test, and I actually went down the motorway as fast as I possibly could, which was the Autobahn section. So I was unlimited. I was the fastest moving electric car in Germany for a very short space of time. Clover Video says, what do you think about the new Ford Puma design, and how do you think it would succeed, or will it succeed against the Duke and the T-Roc?
I've seen it, pictures of it. I've seen some reviews. I love the bit with the boot that you can drain.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
That's brilliant. I mean, put ice in it and, go to the beach, and can you still drive a car to the beach somewhere? I mean,
do you do that?
I remember back in school, my friend had an old rusty Mercedes, so there was no problem with water pouring out of the boot. He would put a couple of bags of ice in there and throw some beers and soft drinks in there, and it would be great. I'm not sure whether you can do that anymore, but it looks like a fun car.
I did handbrake turns on the international. I haven't driven it in Ireland, but I was on the international with a fella called Neil Briscoe. And we did handbrake turns in the Ford Puma, and it caught.
Was this the one when it was pouring like?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I was at the Smart launch event at the time in Valencia, I think.
Oh yeah.
And at the same time, we were passing the Honda E's, which were also there.
It's funny. 2 years ago, I actually passed by all of the UK guys on the launch of a Ford Focus while I was launching something else. We all stopped and have a chat, but the next week I was on the Ford launch, so I knew exactly what it was like on the Ford launch before I even got there. Mr. Lag is back for about that. Brian O'Connell says, I stopped buying new cars only to buy a car now a couple of years old that's well checked. Is that like there's a good few people in Ireland who wouldn't buy a brand new car. They'll buy something that's 2-3 years old. They'll let that depreciation happen, then they'll pick up the pieces. Is that still a big thing in Poland, your part of the world, or is it? Do people tend to head for the new car and keep it?
Okay, so in Poland, something like 70% of sales of new cars are fleet sales.
Okay.
So, and fleet sales includes sole proprietors like myself, for example. So the car we have is actually a company car, so it's classified as a corporate sale. So there are very few people actually buying new cars at all. let's say whether it was 500,000 or 600,000 cars sold last year, which was a very good result over the last 10 or 15 years. Yeah. So out of that, about 150 cars were sold to private individuals. So yes, people tend to buy secondhand cars. However, if they buy secondhand cars, again, they tend to go for the older stuff. And very often it's imported from Western Europe.
Yeah. We have imports from the UK. We drive on the other side of the road from you guys.
Yeah.
So our cars are right-hand drive. So we have a problem with importing from the UK in that a lot of the cars in the UK are cheaper. They have different taxes and things, so it comes out cheaper over there. So the competition between UK and Ireland for car sales has always been an issue, in that it's very easy to go over to the UK and buy a used car there, bring it back and register it in Ireland. So we've always had a bit of a problem with the UK. But a lot of people buy second-hand here. New car sales are responsible for about, I'd say we were probably on target for maybe 120, 130,000 cars a year total for the country of Ireland. That includes all the fleet sales. But now I'd say we'd be looking to scrape maybe 40,000, maybe for the whole year, especially if we don't start ramping up again until later on this year.
Yeah, but I expect the sales will be like halved at least overall. Again, depending on how long this lasts.
Plus, there's so many people out of work. Who's got the money to start paying for brand new cars? You know, it's very hard to get it there.
Well, in case of Poland, it's gonna be companies anyway. So if the companies are back on their feet, or ever so slightly back on their feet, less, if they don't take too big a hit, then they can survive. However, yeah, I've got a report from something called, it's a Car Institute for Car Market Monitoring, SAMAR, which is like our main car report company, and they said, okay, we had imports, so that's used cars. Imports were the worst in March in 14 years. So we're talking about used cars.
Wow, 14 years.
Yeah. So yep. And again, the average year of age of the imported car is over 11 years. So this is what Poles like to buy, unfortunately.
Same kind of here. Our average age here was starting to move up. It was 10 years here. It was down to 8. But I'd say by the end of this year, we'll be back up around a 10-year mark again, as people just aren't convinced. PCP is a difficult thing. I don't know if you probably have a version of it. It's probably called PCP as well, but personal contract plan is here.
You mean like a kind of long-term lease kind of thing?
Yeah, it's sort of pay a deposit, pay for 3 years, pay your finance down, and at the end there's a balloon payment.
And then give it away.
And then you just hand it back at the end, which is PCP for us. People are not as convinced about PCP because it does catch you into the dealership, that particular dealership, for 3 years. You must get your car serviced there, and you must, you have to go back. So it's very hard to get out. And in answer to the question,
I'm not sure if it limits us to a particular dealer, but we do have something like that. It's just that people like to own the car.
Yeah. We don't. We like to finance cars. We like to think we own cars, should I say, rather than finance cars. The answer to the new person on Fully Charged is Rory Reid, who used to be on Top Gear.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. He's a good journalist. I remember him when he was working for something with an obscure name, like a Roku or something like that.
Yeah, he's been around a while. He used to have just a YouTube channel. He got picked out to be on Top Gear, and it never suited. It would never work. It was never going to work.
Yeah, I mean, he did a great video which got him on Top Gear because they had this Recombu.
Recombu.
He was an editor-in-chief of something called Recombu.
All right.
Whatever that is. It's... Okay, and I remember he did a hilarious video on on the Rolls-Royce Phantom, where he would go orgasmic with the carpets and everything, which I'm not surprised. I mean, everybody does, and I think this video got him on Top Gear.
Yeah. It's a strange place. I quite honestly, I don't think, other than the money, I don't think I'd actually like to get on Top Gear. You know, even if they came knocking, if the BBC came and went, do you want to be on Top Gear? I don't know if I'd want to be there. It's very hard.
That's one thing, and second thing, I remember I did an interview with oh God, what's it called? Sniff Petrol.
Oh yeah.
He was promoting his book in Poland, and as part of this promotion tour, we did a interview in a car, and we got to chat on air and off the air, and basically the gist I got was that a lot that made Top Gear was one, preparation.
Yep.
Thorough preparation, and I mean, they've practiced the jokes until everybody in the room thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And second of all, it was the chemistry between the guys, and this is something. The chemistry is not there with the new crew.
No, it's not. You two comedians and a journalist, and none of them are actually funny on their own. If you know what I mean.
Well, Chris Harris is great on his own. I mean, I loved watching Chris Harris back when he was doing stuff for Drive, for Evo, and whatever. I mean, he was like, I aspired to this guy, but on Top Gear, he's not Top Gear.
No, he's not. And I'm not sure Top Gear has a position in the world anymore. I'm not sure that it had a point, because there was nothing else, because Top Gear existed before YouTube, so you went to Top Gear to watch and be entertained and watch cars and do things that no one else was allowed to do. But now because YouTube exists, there's just so much content out there, and you can find exactly your niche of content now on YouTube that you could never find before. So
there are a lot of idiots who will do that stuff a lot cheaper a lot of more dangerously.
Yeah. There's guys, I've seen YouTube channels, there's actually a couple of ones here in Ireland where guys are just like doing donuts and fields and stuff. And they have more subscribers even than me, which is weird. But at the same time, a lot of people aren't interested in new cars. A lot of people just want to see older cars and just see kind of messing around and doing silly stuff.
It's entertainment value, I guess.
Yeah, it's entertainment. What did Clarkson call Top Gear? Was an entertainment show that featured cars. So that's kind of what he's right. It's exactly what it was. But I don't really watch the new Top Gear. I haven't watched Top Gear since the three lads left in the first place. But I took against it when Chris, whatever his name is, took over, the red-haired guy. And it's never really worked since then. So it's still kind of, if it's on, I won't make a point of sitting down to watch it. I watch it sometimes. DK Snapshots asked me, when am I planning to release the movie about insurance companies in Ireland, which I mentioned before Christmas. Another one regarding the e-sol electricity usage user. So what I was planning to do was to find out the best way of getting cheaper or more affordable insurance in Ireland, and I was making a video about it. It's come to a halt now because a lot of insurance now is in a different place entirely than it was before COVID-19. It's a different thing now, trying to find new insurance. What's insurance like in Poland? Is it expensive or cheap, or is it easy to get?
Okay, so we don't have as big restrictions as far as the age of the driver is concerned, etc., etc. So it's not terrible. People are trying to sort of, keep their discounts for X years of driving without any incidents, etc. However, what I find is that in most cases, people will ditch the full insurance as soon as the car is out of financing.
Yeah.
Which I think is a wanton thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, if the car has any value, keep full insurance on it, because, I mean, okay, fine, if it gets to a point where, the insurance costs like half the car, then whatever. But many times, you can find yourself, without a car which has been in an accident or it's been stolen. You can even buy insurance against stealing of the car but not crashing the car, or crushing the car but not stealing the car.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that.
We have one similar to that here. Now, insurance here is quite restrictive. So a lot of insurance companies will only insure if you're plus 25, so over 25 years old. They would.
Okay, I think we're like over 21. We have to be.
They will insure you here from 18 onwards, but it can cost more than the car's value to try and get that kind of insurance on your own. I mean, you can join your parents' policy or you can join other people's policy, but we insure the person here and not the car. I used to live in New Zealand where they do the reverse. They insure the car, not the person. So when you buy insurance for your own car, anyone can drive it once they have a driver's license and they're fully insured to drive that car. So it's an odd way around. We do it the other way around over here. It's we insure the person.
In Poland, it's weird because theoretically, when you're insuring a car, they will ask you, who's the main driver, how many drivers are there, at what age they are.
Yeah.
But in the end, this is more of a statistical question. It's like they don't expect you all of a sudden to be lending your car out to 100 people.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it's the car that's insured, not you. This is one of the problems I had because I do get a lot of questions from viewers, can you come and drive my car, whatever. A couple of my friends do it, a couple of fellow YouTubers, and I'm almost certain they don't have insurance for it because I asked my insurance agent and she said, nope, it's their car insurance. You cannot be insured to fix their car if something goes wrong.
Yeah, it's often a work thing as well. If you because it's kind of our job. We're doing our job in somebody else's car. It becomes under a different kind of insurance here as well. So it can be an awkward thing to get done.
Yeah, so it is difficult, and I don't want to drive other people's car because, I mean, I'm sure it's both sides are they have their best intentions, but for many people, their cars are like, it's more important than their mother, girlfriend, wife, whatever. And, if I get out of the car and the clutch doesn't work properly like it used to, in Poland, nobody's going to sue you because suing is not a thing. But, I would like to be able to cover the costs of, putting it back right and, so that there is no bad blood left.
Yeah.
So,
do you have a program called Wheeler Dealers? Do you ever get Wheeler Dealers in Poland?
We had it on. It was on. I mean, okay. So one thing, I don't have television for the last 12 or 15 years.
Oh my God.
But I am aware. Yeah.
What do you mean?
I'm watching everything online.
All right. Okay.
That's how I became aware of Wheeler Dealers online, and I know the program. I've watched it. Some of it a few years ago. I did a brief interview with Mike, who was in Poland on a trading up tour, and he was buying a Fiat 126, I think.
He's actually a nice guy, Mike.
Yes, he's a very nice guy. I haven't met at China. I mean, they both seem like very nice blokes, but I think they parted ways because whatever. But they both seem like very nice guys.
On their own, they seem like okay guys, yeah. But Wheeler Dealers hasn't been the same since Ed China left it. I would have been a big fan of Wheeler Dealers over the year, particularly because Ed China had a way of teaching you things about cars that no one else was replicating on TV. And so it was pretty good, but it's a shame that they all fell apart and went off their own ways. What I heard from people who sort of know more about fixing cars than I do, because I can change a light bulb as long as it's not a Megane. And the front of a Megane.
And what I heard from mechanics is that especially later Wheeler Dealers, and this is something Ed China mentioned in an interview with with some YouTube channel. He increasingly often he had to cut corners because there was just little time to get the car ready, and it was sort of like putting dust saw in a gearbox. I'm not saying he did this, but to him it felt like it.
Right, we're down to the last few questions. It is now 4 o'clock, so 100 is done, but we did have a little bit of an effort there at the beginning to get it started. But hi, says Paul, and I can't even pronounce yours, N Solo or something. What do you think of electrifying old classics like E-types and other sports cars? This is a modern trend of things. For me, now, an E-type, if you specifically mention an E-type had a great engine and made a fantastic noise The gearbox wasn't so brilliant, but the car itself was brilliant. Electrifying it, I think, will devalue it. So if you're holding onto it as a classic, I think really there's not many people going to collect an electric E-Type versus a proper petrol E-Type. But there are. If a car had a crap engine, then electrifying it would be okay.
Yeah, if you go with a Beetle or with a what was the Mini even. I think there's a company somewhere in the UK doing these kind of retrofits.
There's a few of them are starting. There's actually there's two companies in Ireland. One is retrofitting like DeLoreans and old cars like that into electric. There's another car company or another company who is teaching people how to electrify cars.
Okay.
Now, that sounds
interesting. So you buy a kit for a car and then you do the conversion yourself.
And you can do that to pretty much any car as long as it's got a place you can put a tray full of batteries in it. But if it's a collectible car, if it's a classic, if it's something that was people will want to see in 30 years' time, and you change into electric, there's no way back from electric to back to the petrol one. There's no way to, you're going to rip out most of the bits in it that made it anything even remotely petrol. So just be careful what you wish for. If you end up changing your car, you may never get it back. The Singing Shade asked me, what if Top Gear came to knock on the door with £2 million contract for 5 years? I'd say good luck to YouTube and I'd be over to Top Gear fairly rapid. But that's a lot of money. But you still have to think about, like, for me, I'm old enough to think that in 5 years' time, if I got a 5-year contract with Top Gear, I'd make enough in that 5 years to not really worry about the rest of the time. But if you were starting out in this career and you started on Top Gear like Chris Harris, it's very hard to get back. If Top Gear fails at some point, to go back to just being a YouTuber, to go backwards is very difficult when you're young, Who else is left there? Clover Video said, I just skipped forward on me there, thank you very much. Do you do many of these live streams, Marek? You've done one before, haven't you?
Well, I've done one before, sort of as a test thing, and yes, I am planning to do a bit more. I'm currently arranging sort of meetups like this with a couple of Polish influencers, cool. And so over the next few weeks, I know I'm going to do those in Polish. I'm not sure about the English ones because I don't think I'll be able to talk as much as you are. But I am thinking about it.
That's all right. I think everybody needs to. There's more of this live stream. I've been doing this live stream for ages, so I'm able to read the questions as well as answer questions. I can read ahead of myself, sort of. That's why I use it, and I do radio as well, which is often. That's a kind of a gift to itself. If you're good on radio, you can be very good at these kind of live streams. The difference is that I don't really care whether someone's watching, as long as they can hear it, I'm okay with that. And the podcast comes out as well. But everybody should subscribe to Marek's channel. I've been subscribed there for a very long time, and it's a great channel. It's great. There's great insight and a good sense of humor to go with it as well. Everybody gets that part of it. And you can support both channels. Don't forget to support both channels because we can both able to do our freedom here on YouTube.
I do hope I will be able to see you on my live stream in a couple of weeks. Okay.
I'm ready for you. Anytime you want to.
All right. So I'll probably do a test one in Polish this week, and maybe a week after that we can try something on my channel.
Sure, that would be absolutely brilliant. It's been it's been the fastest 2 hours. Honest to God, I've never seen 2 hours pass by that quick. I know we had a bit of a panic at the beginning. I was all settled down in the end. Maybe we learned something from there, but it's been a brilliant 2 hours.
And then we can answer the question how to earn money while sitting at home.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, how do you earn money while sitting at home? Well, you have to. I think there's a point where we're going to have to be very, very clever moving forward, because the social distancing thing isn't going to go away very quickly. That's going to hang around, and I think going back to kind of traditional meet and greet jobs where you're meeting people every day and shaking hands, that's changing. So I think we're going to have to get a bit clever about what jobs are going to be there in the future. Plus, earning money sitting at home means sitting here on the live stream all day wherever possible. So hit the subscribe button and do the support channels like PayPal or Patreon or whatever. Anyway, I have taken up more than enough of your time today, Marek. You're very good to join us.
Thanks, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone for watching.
Thanks to everyone who came in today to watch the live stream. If you want to watch it back, it'll come out as a podcast next Sunday. But we're going to let Marek go. Thank you very much for joining. And until the next time, I will see you on the far side.